Okay, so for this project we're going to be making an owl in kind of a wintry scene, so a snow owl. And so what we're going to start with is by painting the background, and so I have some tempera paint already on a paper plate to use as a palette, and then I have a couple different sizes of brushes. I've got a bigger brush to make bigger areas, and then a medium-sized brush for medium areas, and then a smaller brush to do the details. And so I also have a paper towel, and I have some water to clean up my brushes as I need to. So the very first thing I'm going to do is get some blue paint, or you can do whatever color you want. If you don't want to use blue, you can use something else. And I'm just going to make the background, and since this is going to be kind of a snowy scene, it doesn't have to be super thick paint on the background. We're just going to kind of do a blue over the whole thing. And if you want to do this along with me, you can, and we can just pause the video as we need to. As you're working on it, you can pause the video if you're watching this as a recording. So I'm going to go ahead and just paint the whole background. And notice that mine's going off the page onto the paper in the background, so you want to make sure that you're painting on something that you don't mind if it gets a little bit of paint on it. If you have maybe some newspaper you can put down, that would be great. But you can also just use a surface that you don't mind just wiping clean, so it just depends on where you make your artwork at. And it might also be a good idea if you want to, if you're using a thinner paper. I'm using like a watercolor paper, so it'll stay pretty thick. But if you're using like a thinner paper, like just a sketchbook paper, you might want to tape down the edges to your table so that it doesn't get too rolled up. 'Cause mine will be a little bit rolled up on the edges, but the thinner the paper, the more it's going to kind of warp and curl the way that mine's doing a little bit. It might do more than that if you're using a thinner paper. So I like to have all my paint, when I'm doing a background, have it kind of all go the same direction, but it's up to you how you want to do it. So I've got all my background painted blue, so you don't have to use blue, you can use a different color if you want. But I am going to go ahead and clean out my brush, and so to do that I'm just going to dip it in the water, and I like to kind of swirl it around on the bottom of the cup of water to help clean it out. And then once you think you've got all the paint out of it, you can kind of check it if it's a lighter colored brush, but if you have a darker brush it won't be as easy to see. And then I'm going to use my paper towel to dry it, but also to check to make sure there's no paint left in it. So when I go to clean it out, when I go like that, it will be, if it's clear, then that means that all the paint's out, and if it's not clear, that means that there's still some paint in there. And so then you might want to clean it out some more. So then I'm going to do kind of a fun thing to make snow. I'm actually going to put a little bit of paint on the end of my paintbrush that I just cleaned out, and I'm actually going to flicker it like this to make snow on the background. And so make sure if you're going to do this that you are doing it somewhere that you won't get it on stuff, so that it's just so that you don't make a mess too much. So wherever it is, make sure it's somewhere you can clean off. And so now I've got my snow on my background for my snowy winter scene. So now if you want, you can use a medium-sized brush, or you can continue to use your large brush. But I'm going to start by making a circle for the owl's face. And if you have time, you can actually stop at this point and let it dry, and then go back and add the owl. But since I'm trying to do all this in one time, I'm going to go ahead and do this, and you'll see that the paint's going to mix a little bit, and that's okay. So it's going to end up being kind of a light blue, so we'll just kind of keep adding some white to it. And this is kind of our base to then go in and put another color on top. But so there's my circle for the owl's face, and then I'm going to make a U shape for the owl's body. And you can make it smaller than this if you want, so that you can have more space at the bottom to add stuff, but that's probably, just depends on how you want to do it. So I'll go in, and I'm actually going to do just another layer of white to kind of make it a more white color, and then do another layer of white over the top of that to make the owl's face. And so now I'm going to clean out my brush again, and this time I'm actually going to go in and use a different color. I'm going to do kind of an orange and yellow mix together with a little bit of white to make, to have it be kind of a colorful bird. And so I'm going to go in and add that over the top of the white areas, and that's what's going to make it stand out as the orange, because if you just do it on the top of the blue paint, it's going to mix in with the blue. So I'm just going to go over the top of that with the orange, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some wings on the side, and you can make kind of a triangle shape or kind of an oval shape, however you want the owl's wings to look. And I'll just go in and add those on there. You can kind of give them a little bit of, feathery edges if you want. And then I'm going to go in and add some triangles at the top for the owl's ears. So now I've got the whole body of my owl drawn on there. So then, using my smaller brushes, the first thing I'm going to add is a branch to show where the owl is going to be sitting. So I'm going to have some brown paint, and you can kind of have it go at a diagonal, and it's going to go behind the wing. Let me scoop this up a little bit so you can see what I'm drawing. So it's going to go behind the wing, so you might have it go maybe out at the edge, however thick you want the branch to go. So I'm going to go in and keep adding to it because I want it to be a little bit thicker. So there's my branch. And you can go in and add, little parts that go off of it if you want to. But it's up to you how you want to do it. Okay, so there's my branch on my owl. And so now I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually clean my brush out that had the brown on it so that it's ready to go. And I'm going to use black now to outline and add details. And so first thing I want to add is some feet, so you can show where he's standing. So you can kind of draw those in. And they don't have to be anything too fancy, just do the best you can. Usually they have about the 3, talons going down. And then I'm going to outline around the edge of the whole owl. So I'll go in and add lines with the black, and so you're just going to have to keep dipping your paintbrush in the black to outline the whole thing. Until you have your whole owl outlined. And then once you have the outside of it outlined, you can go in and add more details from there. So I'm going to go in and outline the wings. And then also I'm going to outline the branch. And now I'm going to go in and add some details. So I'm going to show where the eyes are. So I'm going to do dots for the eyes. And then I'm going to do circles around them, or you can do it the other way too if you want to do the circles first and then do the dots to show the big owl eyes. And then I'm going to do little U shapes on the body of the owl to show the feathers. So you can just do kind of little U's to create kind of a texture of feathers. And it's okay if you've got a little bit of all the colors blending together if you're working with everything being wet paint. It's not a big deal. It's kind of a fun blending technique that gets to go on when you do that. So just do your best. And so I'm just going to do the little U shapes all over the body of the owl and also on the wings. And the wings I might make go kind of more out to the side, so they're not, you know, vertical going, or sorry, horizontal. They're not going left to right. They're more going at like a diagonal because the wings are kind of shaped going outward. And then I'm also going to do maybe some little lines if I wanted to on the branch to show that it's got, you know, like little splintery lines on it. So that would be okay to do. And then I did also want to go in and add a triangle with orange for the nose, the beak of the owl. So I'm going to go in and do that last so it can be a bright orange. So you make sure that you leave space for that if you haven't. That'll be something you want to do. And so yeah, so then you're going to make sure, last but not least, you'll want to sign your owl. So usually at the bottom somewhere. So I'm going to do mine with just my last name. So Miss Lee. So yeah. So there's the owl. And I'm going to go ahead and lift that up so you can see a little bit better, so it doesn't have as much of a shine. But as it dries, it'll be a little bit less shiny. And so, but yeah, so just wanted you guys to see how you can make your own snowy owl.